So obviously the House passed their own version of an Israeli aid bill, but it doesn't seem like the Senate wants to take that bill on board. They want to make a lot of amendments to it. How long is this process going to take?
I don't know how long it's going to take, but I will say this. There is a bipartisan and bicameral resolve to make sure that Israel gets the funding it needs to protect itself. That's the good news. The difficult news is we don't know what form that will ultimately take. The House did a couple things. First of all, we passed a resolution. It's the first thing we passed after we got a speaker. That was a very, very strong statement. So the resolution was out there. The bill that was coupled, which I voted for, with the cutting of the IRS funds, obviously did not play well in the United States Senate. But we need to send a clear message to the world. Israel will get its funding, it will be robust, and we need to make sure that we continue to tell not only the American people, but the world that Israel is our ally. Israel was wronged on October the 7th by terrorists. That can never be condoned. And we need to stand by our only true, real, great ally in the Middle East.
So, Congressman, I have kind of a two-part question for you. Would you say the U.S.'s support for Israel should be unconditional?
When we say unconditional, it needs to be strong. Our rhetoric needs to match our dollars, absolutely. We need to talk about the fact that the survival and the prosperity of the Jewish state is important not only to people in Israel, but to the United States. Israel is our ally. When you say unconditional, I think we always need to know where the money is going. For example, when we talk about Ukraine funding, I don't think we can let Putin win. He's a thug. He has caused all kinds of problems in that region. It's horrible what he did in Ukraine. But the American people want accountability. If we're going to commit U.S. tax dollars to Israel, to Ukraine, anywhere in the world, even to our other allies, such as Egypt, our second largest recipient of aid, we need to know where those dollars are going. The American people want the answers, and they deserve the answers to those questions.
So you think there should be conditions in the receiving of aid in terms of how it's used, but I wonder about attaching conditions of our own to aid, like making sure it's paid for by stripping funds from the IRS. Is that really appropriate?
Well, it's a start. Let's face it, the bill that created 80,000 new IRS agents was ridiculous. I voted against that. I don't think the American people want that. I can remember vividly and fondly debating the Democrats on the floor. I said, look, I'll stand with the American people. You Democrats stand with the IRS. And they actually embraced that. I could not believe we were hearing Democrats staying with the IRS on that.
But the CBO says that it's actually going to add to the deficit. Do you not agree with the Congressional Budget Office?
I don't agree with them. Okay, I am a firm believer, first of all, we need to reduce taxes in this country, whether it's at the local level, the state level, or the federal level. Thank God I live in a state, one of 9, Tennessee, with no state income tax. People are coming to states with no state income tax. But I go back to John Kennedy and Ronald Reagan, who will say, reduce taxes and you'll get actually more revenue in the Treasury. Why? You will have growth. But
Okay.
that's my ethos. But the reality is we don't need more IRS agents. I would look forward to a day when we would favor more consumptive taxes rather than income taxes. I don't think anybody should be punished on their ability to earn, but that's my ethos.
So, Congressman, we only have about a minute left, but that's on the revenue side. In
Sure.
terms of the spending side of the ledger, that's a conversation clearly you are all deeply engaged in right now.
Right.
What kind of continuing resolution would find your support?
Well, I'm a firm believer that, and I'm an appropriator, that we have got to keep the government open. So I'm not putting some of the conditions that some of my friends in my caucus are. I think something that is a little bit longer, cleaner, less
April?
complex. Excuse me?
Longer meaning April?
No, probably January. No one's talking April, but we're talking January. I could live with December if we had to. Logistics are going to be a problem. But the more staggered or complex you make it a non-starter in the Senate. We've got to send a message right now to the world. We do not want to shut the American government down. We want to keep it open. There's 2 major wars going on. We've got problems at home. We don't need to be shutting down the American government.